The council noise team manager bizarrely put in writing back to me on January 21, 2021 that, quote, "We cannot act as a conduit for neighbors to inform each other of when DIY is taking place. DIY for any homeowner is an acceptable activity." And they then said that they, quote, "appreciated that I was saying this might be being used as an excuse." I already warned the police back in October 2020, in writing, that the neighbors were about to start doing DIY and using noisy children to bother me next, sounds that I had not yet heard. Indeed, at the end of November 2020 is when they started the DIY noises every 3 days. In fact, the council noise team are so aware of the fact that DIY can be used by noisy neighbors to cover up their intentional noise, that they had already falsely accused me of doing this very thing back in 2020. My neighbors had been fabricating that I was banging when in fact they were banging. Apparently as revenge and to get me into trouble, and it really worked. It worked so well that the council were speaking about me behind my back and even put in writing how I was, quote, "definitely at it, because after I did DIY I knew my neighbor would record and send it in, as it's the only time I actually made noise." The council were totally blanking me, and I sent this audio in and didn't even get a reply. They were all talking about me and my audio of my DIY behind my back, deciding whether to still forward the ASBO against me or not, but ultimately deciding not. The neighbor's caseworker ended up being given a copy of my DIY defense evidence without my knowledge or consent and called my proof I was doing DIY, quote, "pathetic." And the manager, who eventually became the main person who was dealing with me in 2021, stated, "With absolutely no evidence that I had been banging other than one episode of DIY lasting less than 15 minutes, as I was not banging." Quote, "This is difficult as it looks like she is trying to excuse the noise she is making." They didn't think to question why the neighbor claimed I was doing a lot of banging, but had zero evidence of it. Then when she produced something and I explained it, somehow this made me a manipulative liar. And the only other evidence she had after this was when I yet again did DIY. But this was months later, and again only for a few minutes at a time, and sounded like obvious DIY. However, the council will not answer me as to why I was originally told over the phone by someone letting things slip, that my neighbor had video of banging from my house and her baby crying. And they stated the times of the banging was after 9 p.m., in fact around 9:45 p.m., which I would never do. And when my DIY was finished by 7:15 p.m. and I was told the reason that the council proceeded aggressively with an ASBO without even asking me if I did anything, is because there was evidence. Video evidence against me. I told the council repeatedly that this is impossible and to investigate if the neighbor has concocted video or audio evidence on me, but they have been ignoring this for months, as have the police. And the council are telling me I have no right to know what allegations my neighbor has made about me, including false allegations, to prove that I wasn't at home, etc. It's also interesting that 2 people live in this house, but with zero evidence of who it was, as any video, if it did exist, cannot see through my walls. The council sent the ASBO to me personally. It is for this reason that on my 3rd episode of DIY, I got the other occupant to do it for me, as I knew yet again my neighbor would maliciously report it. What happened? Yes. Again. I was personally sent a letter saying I was banging. And it omitted what another council worker let slip, that I was not just being accused of banging or doing DIY, not at all. I had been secretly, falsely and maliciously accused of banging on her toddler's bedroom wall. Again. On purpose it appears. And not due to DIY. The council did not appear to consider I was doing DIY and did not correct or challenge or suggest that it might just be DIY to my neighbour, but proceeded with allegations that DIY sounds were actually the victim of a loud music-playing neighbour targeting their very young child in bed. Yeah. That sounds believable. That doesn't sound at all like a vengeful false allegation by someone upset at being told to stop their obnoxious and entitled loud music playing just before this. But my council worker believed this and told me that it was definitely possible for my neighbor to tell that we were banging on her child's bedroom wall. I wonder what she'll say when I send in the video. That shows me not just me doing DIY with a pole in the middle of my living room nowhere near the bedrooms, but the other occupant doing DIY with the poles, with me filming it. And me saying that they should hammer it to catch out the neighbor and council when they lie. It is me again and the council go along with this. This file has been split into 2 parts due to size limitations. This is part 1 of 2.